We'll be continuing with our SVG here, and instead of a circle we're going to try to create in this case, a pentagon. So just go to your current one and we're going to just try to delete this. So delete from just before stroke to the circle, because we're going to reuse the remaining strokes we already made and so on. We're just going to delete that, and we're also going to change the size of our SVG to 100 instead. So it's a little bit bigger and easier to see. The first thing we want to tell it, instead of doing a circle, we want to make it into a polygon. And you already tried using those in when you did your clippy path and so on. So polygon is the first part of this that we want, and then we need to type in something called points. And this is where these points start. So kind of like you did with your, if you remember this clippy path here, these points are this one down here, so you can see them down here. So the point is where it starts, this one starts, not up here, that's not the point. This part here is what we want to try to move around and change and have fun with and so on. Now I already have some numbers here because I'm lazy and I didn't want to write them all over. But you can copy those and use them in your yours as well. So have this in here, your polygon points like this. And once you've done this, you can actually click save and go to your browser, and let's see what happens. So now we created a polygon, and again we're using points, so because we have 100 up here and 100 here in width, we're using that's the maximum width height of our box. And again 50, 0, I'll just show you two of them what they actually mean. So 50, 0 means we're going from up here on the first point to we're going 50 in on that X and 0 down on the other X. The other one here which we're going 100, so from over here and then all the way over here, that's 100, and then we're going 38 down, so that's the point here. And then we can continue with 82 and 100, so 82 around here and 100, that's the bottom of the page. So that's how we draw elements. If you add more in here, something like this, I don't know what that's going to do. It moved it a little bit down, as you can see. We're just adding more points to our polygon, so we can make many different points, so as many as we want really. But that's kind of how you can make something like this. So very similar to clip path. We're going to assign this a class so we can actually start changing things in our CSS with this. So inside this polygon here, add a class. It's exactly the same as an ID, but in this case not a hex. We're going to call it pentagon, and remember this here. So click save and go to your styles, and I already made a space down here for the SVG. So we're going to do a class that's a dot and then pentagon. And then here we can also start to change. We could also, if we were really clever, I would take this part here that we have with the yellow and everything, click save, and then we would actually style it in here instead. So we would have, what was it? You had a stroke of 1, I think. We had stroke color, stroke width, sorry, not stroke color, that was also 1, and stroke is actually the color, that was red, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we had a fill of yellow. So let's just quickly see if this still works, and it does. So the only thing that changes was because it was 2 stroke before instead of 1. So back to this. Now, since we have this, we can actually start using CSS to do standard things that we've been doing before. So I'm going to add a hover for this, pentagon in this case. And now we're going to add the color. So the color of a, let's go with the stroke. Stroke should be something else, not red. Let's go with that greenish color there. So that one. And we also want to change the fill of our, instead of yellow, we want it to be something crazy, something crazy, something blue, like this. And again, to actually make a hover, we need to make the pseudo S CSS for this. So in here, type hover, click save, go to your browser, hit enter, and once you hover over it, you can see you can also change the colors. So now compared to clip path, we can actually create a border. We can create border shadows and everything, and we can actually change those on hover. If we were to do this with clip path, it will create small errors and bugs, so it doesn't look right. Maybe it jumps a little bit around or not changing the colors at all. And we're just more safe with this, because what SVG is, the scale vector, it's being drawn by the browser. So we have some code that's being converted and everything, and the browser reads all this text and all these things we've been doing here with the points and so on, and then it creates it out of that. So it's not an image that's safe, but it's something that it creates. And that's the key part here. Because we can do this, we can actually start writing text in these, which we'll get to in the next few videos. And by having an image, kind of, which it is, that contains text that Google can actually read, makes it the page Google is more able to index all the content on the page, which means we'll have a better ranking, and so on and so on. Of course, if we did everything correct. But that's really one of the key things about SVG. It's good for logos and sort of images like this. It's not good for something that requires a lot of animations, like sort of small games, but that's more HTML canvas, which we'll get back to in a later point. But for now, this is what we're going to continue with in the next few videos.